My wife's first love once ditched her for a classy, charming heiress. Years later, he's getting a messy divorce and needs a lawyer. And guess what? My wife just happens to be one. When she decided to go back to him, I chose to let go. Turns out, you can't stop someone from being self-destructive. Jenny asked for a divorce 2 weeks after she came back from a college reunion. What? Couldn't believe it. We've been married for 3 years and have been happy. Just a few days ago, we told our parents we were planning for a baby. Jenny looked exhausted. She couldn't meet my eyes and spoke softly. It's only temporary. I can't just leave him alone. Him. She didn't say his name, but I knew. The one who left her in the past. Ben is having a rough time. His marriage is falling apart, but his wife won't let go. He's living alone now. We did share a history, and I'm the only one who can help. I stayed quiet for a moment and asked, "Is he asking you to be his lawyer for the divorce?" Jenny nodded. She slowly explained, "His wife has power, so the case will be tough. Our divorce is just to protect you. For the future." She paused, like she wanted to say more, but I cut her off. "So should I thank you for your concern?" I guess my sarcasm was obvious. Jenny breathed deeply and stayed silent. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and said, "Then let's divorce." Jenny got up nervously. "Where are you going this late? From now on, we have nothing to do with each other." With those words, I headed for the door. But at the door, I couldn't stop myself from looking back, asking, "Remember how badly Ben hurt you after he dumped you? Jenny, back then you told me you'd make him pay." The door slowly closed, hiding Jenny's suddenly pale face. And the rest of my words. "Jenny, do you really just love to help people, or are you just foolish?" Jenny and I practically grew up together. She was a brilliant student, pretty, and popular despite her tough family situation. I watched her toss countless love notes into the trash. She would tell me she wasn't interested in dating. She just found them annoying. So I kept my distance, hiding my teenage crush deep inside. It was only later that I found out she made an exception. For Ben. Ben was handsome, the dangerous kind. He cornered Jenny during break, asking if she wanted a little thrill. Jenny nervously looked away, but the next moment he pulled her close for a kiss. With her red face, Ben smirked, "You're shy. Let's date." I was standing at the other end of the hall, cluelessly holding the lunchbox Jenny's mom asked me to bring her, watching the girl I liked choose someone else. Stealing the meat from her lunch was my only way of showing anger. She didn't care though. She was all about Ben and the thrill of new love. I cried it out and decided to let it go. But fate has a way of messing with you. They broke up fast. Ben got bored and dumped Jenny for a new girl, the heiress who became his wife. Her family had power and money, everything he wanted. Jenny wouldn't let it go and kept seeking him out until the heiress found out. Then the bullying began. With her father gone and raised by her mother in tough times, she often relied on my family. She was no match for the heiress. I still remember the end of our college entrance exams, when everyone was celebrating except me, searching for Jenny in the rain until I found her beaten up in an alley. Her exam ticket was ripped on the ground, and she was bruised all over. When she saw me, she clung to me, shaking. "They want to ruin me." Jenny gritted her teeth. "I'll make them pay for abandoning me." I could only comfort her, "It'll get better." She suddenly looked up, staring into my eyes. "Henry, you're all I have," she said. I avoided her gaze and replied softly, "I'll wait for you to repeat the year." I didn't want to take advantage of her vulnerability or be a stand-in. I was cautious, even as she resat exams to get into my college, and even when she pursued me for 3 whole years. She said, "Now I know what I almost lost." The sincerity in her eyes won me over, and I finally took a chance. It all seemed like the perfect ending, until the school reunion 7 years later. Jenny got me an expensive suit a week ahead. The whole outfit was costly. I laughed. "Isn't this a bit much?" She just said, "I want everyone to see how happy you make me." But when urgent work came up, I couldn't attend. Jenny was upset. She called while I was in a meeting, then bombarded me with texts. "Henry, we're planning for a baby. Can't you quit that crappy job? It's the reunion. Old friends will be there. How will I look?" I sighed deeply and replied as fast as I could, Jenny, I'm not your trophy. Her last text was, what's more important, work or our marriage? I decided to switch off my phone. But after the late meeting, I got a call from a classmate saying Jenny was drunk and passed out at the restaurant. Panic hit me, and despite my exhaustion and hunger, I got a cab immediately. Jenny had drunk a lot. When she saw me, her eyes watered, and she collapsed into my arms. She murmured into the crook of my neck, "Honey, I'm here," I replied. I felt a pang in my heart, and with some effort, helped her up. "Let's go home." But then, she suddenly vomited all over my pants and shoes. I took a sharp breath, didn't hesitate, and quickly got her into the car to head home. Just then, a silhouette emerged from the restaurant, chasing after us. She had left her wallet behind. Without really looking, I took it and thanked them, ready to leave, but they held the car door. "So you're her husband?" The voice was full of challenge. I looked up almost instinctively. The neon lights down the street flickered, casting colorful reflections on the man. 7 years had passed. He had become more charming, with messy short hair falling near his eyelids. As he raised a hand, an expensive watch peeked out perfectly. "Ben," I said, probably with an awkward smile, "long time no see." How could it not be awkward? I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My face was haggard and tired after a long day's work, not to mention the vomit on my clothes. 7 years. Every time I see him, I feel like a loser. Thankfully, Jenny broke the silence. She seemed a bit sobered up, but maybe not. She just leaned her head on my shoulder, mumbling my name. "Honey, Henry," she said. "I shouldn't have called you, interrupting your work. Don't be mad at me, okay?" I felt my heart melt. I knew what bothered her. When I decided to be with her, all our friends and family were against it because she came from a less privileged background. So Jenny has worked so hard over the years to prove herself, not wanting others to think she was out of her league. She wanted me to quit my job, wanted me to look good for important occasions, just to show she could. Those early years, we struggled. We lived in a damp basement, where the ceiling leaked during rains. We'd catch the water in red plastic bowls, hugging each other in the sound of trickling drops. When our pockets were empty, I was happier than most. She'd cook for me every day, pick me up from work on rainy days, trying her best to be good to me. She wasn't a perfect girlfriend, but she was the pure girl who had me in her eyes and heart. Love can conquer all. At that moment, in the cab, when she called me honey, those words echoed in my mind again. So I looked up and genuinely smiled at Ben, saying, "Yeah, we've been together for 7 years and we're happy." Ben looked a bit lost. I sighed in relief, holding hands with Jenny on the way back. But in the end, she still made me lose. Completely. The divorce had to happen. I was too kind, sticking around to help her with Ben's mess. We hired a lawyer to discuss splitting assets. The whole thing was long and complicated. It's funny, really. We had moved into this house with nothing, building everything from scratch. Back then, we were happy, dreaming of the future every day. Years later, here we were, facing a list of assets splitting up. Jenny looked exhausted, sitting at the table in a daze. Once it was over, I went to the balcony for air, mindlessly scrolling on my phone when an old classmate messaged me with a video. Her voice was uneasy. I hesitated a long time about sending this, afraid it might ruin things between you two. But I felt you should know. The video showed what seemed like the restaurant from our class reunion. In a narrow stairwell, 2 figures were standing close. Ben's voice was seductive as he asked, "After all these years, did you ever miss me?" Jenny, her face flushed, leaned against his chest. Ben asked again, "Who's better, me or Henry?" "I'm married to him. Is that boring guy really right for you?" Ben leaned down, kissing her boldly. Jenny didn't pull away. When the kiss ended, Ben panted, pulling her close possessively. "Jenny, as soon as my divorce is settled, we—" "There is no we," Jenny interrupted, snapping back to her senses. "I have to be responsible for Henry." With that, she turned to leave. "Jenny," Ben shouted after her, "all these years, I thought of you every day. I regret it. And you? Haven't you ever thought of me? Don't fool yourself." Jenny's steps halted. Eventually, Amid Ben's sobs, she suddenly turned, walking back toward him. Her eyes were red as she stood on her tiptoes and kissed his lips. It was a good minute before I re-entered the room. The lawyer had left, and Jenny was all alone in the empty room. "How come you took so long inside?" she asked while sorting through the papers. "These are the property division agreements we finalized this afternoon." Without looking, I stood there in the middle of the room, slowly saying, "I want a new agreement drafted. The house, the car, everything we shared, I don't want any of it left with you." Jenny was stunned. She asked with a bitter smile, "Henry, do you have to make it so ugly? 7 years of feelings, after it's over, we can still be together, can't we?" So she knows it's 7 years, too. I leaned on the table, looking down at her. "Don't disgust me. Every second with you makes me want to puke. 7 years of memories, each piece of furniture in this house, we picked and arranged together. But now, looking at them, I felt like even the memories were hideous." I didn't show Jenny the video. I needed that ace up my sleeve in case she tried to pull something with the asset division. I'd hand it to the lawyer. Her affair didn't hurt me much. Maybe the moment she filed for divorce, any feelings I had for her vanished, leaving no trace. I'm a decent guy, and I don't want to make a fool of myself over some woman. But in the end, we didn't part on good terms. 3 days after we decided to get a divorce, Ben's wife smashed up our home. Her name is Lily, a local heiress from a well-known business family, but word is, she doesn't play fair. Back in the day, they say she bullied competitors into submission. She somehow found out Jenny was meddling in Ben's business and sent a bunch of thugs to bust our windows. I was asleep in the master bedroom, and Jenny had already been moved to the guest room because I wasn't leaving the house until the property issue was resolved to prevent her from moving assets. When it happened, shards of glass flew inside, almost cutting me. Jenny rushed in first. The thugs tossed a few bricks inside, even hitting Jenny on the head. I looked down at my hands, trembling and covered in Jenny's blood. The thugs took off soon after. I quickly called the cops. When I looked up again, Jenny was getting dressed to go out. "Jenny," I lost my voice. "What are you doing?" Guilt flickered in her eyes, but she said, "It's all right. They won't go too far. Hide in the bathroom. I'll be back soon." It's the middle of the night, and I'm standing alone by the wide-open window. "Jenny," I clenched my fists, holding back anger and fear. "Are you sure you want to go?" Jenny didn't even glance back. She just said one thing, "Sorry. Ben needs me more than you do." I don't know how I got through those hours. The cops arrived soon, and I calmly answered their questions. Jenny returned later with Ben, who looked perfectly fine. He held her arm tight, even giving me a mocking smile. "Henry." Jenny ran to me as soon as she saw me, shaking off his grip. Her head wound wasn't bandaged yet, and blood was crusted on her face, looking both ridiculous and pitiful. "Are you okay?" she started to ask. I slapped her hard, interrupting her words. She staggered from the blow, reopening her wound, making it bleed again. I looked into her eyes, breathing heavily. "You're just a piece of crap." She looked pained, opening her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Ben, behind her, chimed in smugly, "Henry, how could you hit her? She was just worried about me. You've misunderstood." I slapped him with my other hand just as hard. "Henry, you're nuts?" Ben exclaimed. "I'm insane," I sneered. "Mail me the divorce papers. Seeing you two even one more second makes me sick." I wasn't done yet. I squatted down, grabbing Ben by the collar. "Is someone else's wife that attractive? That much fun?" Ben's face twisted in anger. I just asked her a favor." "Really? So many lawyers and you ask your successful ex? Think people don't see through your little act?" "Doesn't matter, though," I said, sickened, letting him go. "I don't care anymore. You want garbage, take her." With that, I stormed off. "Henry, can you calm down?" Jenny tried to block me, but I shoved her aside. "Piss off." I glared down at her. "Pathetic, clingy fool. Don't block my way. Get the hell out." The divorce papers arrived a few days later. I signed them without hesitation and sent them back the same day. The day we got our divorce certificates, the air even seemed fresher. I snapped a pic of the certificate and posted it in our group chat, tagging both Ben and Jenny. The caption was, "I'm free. Congrats on the promotion. Hope you last forever. Locked. When they don't act right, I don't need to keep appearances for them." The chat exploded, everyone wondering what happened, asking if Ben was the other guy, if Jenny cheated. Ben sent several 60-second voice messages. I didn't even care to listen to them. With everyone tagging Jenny, she couldn't hide. She awkwardly said it was a peaceful split. I clicked on a voice message. Crazy. That's all I said into the speaker. The chat went silent. I took a long vacation from work to travel and clear my head. Life's too short, and I needed to release the bitterness inside. It wasn't tourist season, so no crowds, and the weather was nice. I enjoyed myself a lot. A young girl in our travel group took some pictures of me with her camera. She showed them to me, asking, "How are these?" I was moved and looked up earnestly. "They're great. Thank you." She smiled with a cute toothy grin and asked, "Mind if I trade this photo for your WeChat?" I took a good look at her again, smiling. That might be a bit hard. No worries, her eyes were eager. The trip's long. So the whole trip she just kept taking pictures. While I was having a blast, Ben and Lily's divorce was in court. When I got off the plane on my way home, a friend sent me photos of the courtroom. Outside, Lily looked haughty and careless. Jenny was blocking her, and Ben seemed worn out. My friend added, "You should have seen it, Lily's super arrogant. Heard she's been bombing Jenny's firm with calls, trying to get her fired, then tried to bribe her. It's rough." I wasn't really interested. But that night, Jenny commented on my travel photos, asking, "Who took your picture?" I didn't reply, it wasn't any of her business. When I checked my phone again after dinner, she had deleted her comment and written, "Hope you're having fun." Later, she left a voice message. In 30 seconds, the first part was just wind noise, but then she drunkenly said at the end, "Hubby." The house got really quiet. I'm exhausted every day, with no one to support or validate me. Feels like I've gone back in time. I listened to that voice message in silence, then blocked her friend, feeling unlucky. I can imagine what she's like right now. While I'm out having fun, she's still in that house with the broken window. After splitting the assets, I did exactly what I said I would. I didn't even leave her a single rug. She's facing major career setbacks, which probably reminds her of the early days after college when nobody believed she could make it as a lawyer. Nobody believed in her, except for me. I believed in her unconditionally, supporting and encouraging her. I made her hangover soup and took her to the hospital when her boss had her drink till she suffered a stomach bleed. When nobody wanted to hire her, I went with her door to door, bowing deeply and pleading for a chance. When she won her first case, I spent half a month's salary on a congratulatory gift. There are too many things to list. But later, I finally understood. Never love a girl who doesn't love you back. Now, as she hits rock bottom again, she might remember how good I was to her, but it doesn't change the fact that she ditched me after she succeeded. 7 years of youth and it's all down the drain. She might feel nostalgic, but I just feel disgusted. On the day my trip ended, the photographer finally exchanged contact information with me. Turns out, after adding her, I found out she's still a student. Her name is Cindy. She's in grad school, and photography is just a hobby. She was adorable when she nervously asked if I had a girlfriend, but I just gave her a light pat on the head and said, "You're still young, little sister." Cindy looked defiant and said, "There's plenty of time." I wasn't convinced. People's hearts are fickle. Jenny taught me that. Too bad she doesn't understand that herself. The day I returned home, I was juggling my luggage off the plane when a friend called me. Things took a dramatic turn. Ben decided not to get a divorce. It's a long story, but in short, someone took intimate photos of him and Jenny. The day Jenny sent me that voice message, they were at a bar and then went home together, getting tangled up while drunk. Jenny might have had a moment of clarity and sent me that sad message, but I blocked her. Lily's people got the pictures and she agreed to divorce, willing to let the two lovebirds be together. But she won't give Ben a dime. I believe that dummy Jenny must have had a moment where she felt like she owed Ben, until Ben refused her. Ben incredulously questioned Jenny, I won't get a dime. Why would I even hire you? Jenny was even more shocked. You said you were being abused, couldn't take it and just wanted to leave her. I'm not divorcing for the money. Do you think it's for you? You're naive and just as wimpy as ever. Ben's face twisted. From the start, he was only after Lily's assets. Jenny was just plain dumb. She stood there frozen for ages, and when Ben was about to walk out, she couldn't help but ask, trembling, "What am I to you? A big fool?" I mercilessly replied. My friend laughed heartily over the phone. Things you can't have always seem better, until you get them and realize how rotten they are. Back in school, Ben had her wrapped around his finger. She'd hand over her heart the moment he beckoned. Years later, the same scenario replayed. "Anyway, watch out," said my friend on the phone. "She knows you came back today." I didn't catch the rest. I'd already spotted Jenny's face in the crowd. She seemed worn out, her dress wrinkled as if it hadn't been ironed in ages, looking pale and vacant. She offered me a ride home. I climbed into the back seat and saw her effortlessly driving towards our old address. So I said expressionlessly, "Don't get the wrong place." Jenny was silent for a moment, then asked, "Where are you living now?" I gave her the address. That was the small apartment I bought before we got married. Not the best location, but the deed had only my name on it, it was all mine. Jenny asked, "Are you getting used to living there?" "Without the person who makes me sick, of course I am." I didn't even want to answer such a stupid question. The car quickly reached my stop, and I didn't even try to be polite. I was ready to hop out immediately. But the door wouldn't budge, no matter how many times I tried. "What's this about?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "I'm not used to it." With reddening eyes, she slowly turned around. "Henry, life without you is something I can't get used to." I watched her act, uninterested, and asked, "So what?" She faltered, then went on. "Come back. Ben fooled me. They destroyed my job, sent thugs to harass me, and now I'm always up, sleepless, slowly losing my sanity. Every night I find myself missing you. You're the only one who would forgive, support, and help me without a grudge." I stayed silent for a long time. Eventually, as the air inside the car thickened, I calmly replied, "You were dumped by Ben, then chased after me for 3 years. Through all those storms, your hard times and lows, I was there with you. Then you hit it big, left me for him, and now you're back at rock bottom because of him. So now you remember to get back together with me? Jenny, do I look like a fool to you?" Jenny's face looked really awkward. "You don't have to say it so harsh," she said. "Our divorce wasn't because love was gone. You're the only one in my heart. I never even thought about really leaving you. Why can't you give me a chance?" That sounded so funny to me. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I laughed and asked her, "When you and Ben were kissing at the reunion, did you ever think you'd be asking for another chance?" Jenny suddenly looked up, staring at me in disbelief. "What?" I just pulled out that video and shoved it in her face. "Jenny, you cheated on me and now you're talking about love? You've got quite the nerve." Jenny looked pained and gripped the steering wheel tightly. "That's not it," she murmured. "It was Ben, he made the first move. It was always like this. I could have had a great life, a perfect marriage, and someone to love. Ben ruined it all. He kept coming after me. He's the reason, Henry. I never loved him. I know." I cut her off, expressionless. "You just can't stand losing." Jenny seemed relieved and reached out to hold my hand. But I added, "Someone as selfish and greedy as you doesn't deserve love." Faced with a little temptation, you wavered. Be it Ben or me, who was with you through tough times, you're just someone who loves only yourself with no loyalty, chasing excitement to boost your ego. Pathetic. Honestly, Jenny, I'm kinda thankful to Ben. He's the reason I saw your true colors early on. Divorcing you was the best decision I've ever made. My words really hurt Jenny. She looked at me in sheer disbelief, her hands trembling. "How could you?" she asked desperately. "Henry, we were together for 7 years. How can you just let go of such deep feelings?" "Exactly because of those 7 years," I replied, enunciating each word. "Let's not end this too badly." During her toughest times, we were deeply in love. As she became more successful, she thought that love would never fade. She took everything for granted, believing I'd forgive her no matter what she did. She thought she could indulge in her past and keep our marriage intact after the fact, losing nothing. Wanting everything, insatiably greedy. Where on earth is it that simple? Jenny, you once told me something when you were pursuing me. Now I'm giving it back to you. You'll never know what you missed out on. Jenny was devastated. That day, she apologized to me repeatedly. After I got home, I saw from the balcony that her car stayed late into the night before finally driving away. I don't know how much of her apology was sincere, nor do I care. When I loved her, I gave it my all. When I didn't, I walked away without hesitation. No matter the decision, I was true to myself. As for her, karma is a thing. Jenny's still fairly young. Even if she lost her job temporarily, she still has chances to start over. Too bad Ben's second betrayal and my departure hit her hard, driving her crazy. I heard she's after Lily now, not because of Ben, but just out of spite. Lily's family did have some shady business practices, with plenty of victims. People were too afraid to look into it before. Lily's family tried to bully Jenny into stopping, even sending thugs after her. Her finances, already hit hard from our divorce, went downhill fast after losing her job. She ended up selling her car and house, down to almost nothing. Ben actually begged her to stop investigating, knowing it could affect him too. On the surface, Jenny agreed. That year, during Lily and Ben's wedding anniversary party, a big event with all the rich and famous, chaos erupted. Instead of their corporate video, a clip of Ben and Jenny kissing in the stairwell played. I heard everything went to hell that day, and Lily almost beat Ben to death in front of everyone. The mastermind, Jenny, faced revenge too, getting her hand broken. Yet she didn't stop there. By the next year, she got Lily thrown in jail for tax evasion and shady dealings. All of Lily's assets got frozen and confiscated. That day, Jenny called me. Unfortunately, I wasn't around to answer. The one who answered the phone for me was Cindy. In the past, I would have never imagined being with a kid like Cindy. But we're all human, with hearts that can be touched. She's genuine and warm, slowly winning me over. Us being together just felt natural. She passed on the message from that call. She said the woman on the other end sounded overjoyed, excitedly asking if I'd made those people pay and if I could give her another chance, like before. When she heard my voice, she seemed really disappointed. Cindy said, I wanted to tell her to call back later, but it suddenly got chaotic over there. I found out later from friends that Ben had lost everything and went crazy. He bought a fruit knife and stabbed Jenny. Did she die? I asked, curious. Probably not, said a friend. But she's in a rough spot now. Lily broke her arm before going away. Jenny has no job, no money, and I heard she's in the hospital from getting stabbed, with no one around. Cindy asked quietly while we listened, Are you going to see her? I just smiled and shook my head. She has nothing to do with me. You can't fix a broken mirror. No matter what she does, she can't undo the hurt she caused me. Plus, I've got someone more important in my life now. I'm not going to lose my ability to love because of one failed relationship, and I won't stand still. I've got a long future ahead of me,